Hello. Today is a Q&A that is mainly just because I really want to talk about it. Nobody explicitly asked about this. I will probably make one about a question that I got recently, but first off, I really want to talk about this because I have been working about the topic of masculinity now for half a year, probably. I made a short film that will be published pretty soon. You can also see it in this little event very soon. The topic of masculinity is a very broad one, and so I am gonna shorten it to just what me being trans or me being a queer man has taught me about masculinity. I identify as a trans man, I use he, him pronouns, and I have been out for over 1.5 years now, I think. It has been a lot. It has been a very big journey. I am not yet medically transitioned, and I am very much socially out. So I thought this video might help to understand a perspective of someone who has been having a very long journey with masculinity. I will start off by saying it would maybe help to watch my last Q&A to get the context of me transitioning to a point where now I am very comfortable. But one big part that I want to explain is how my view of masculinity has changed over this past year, almost. And over me finally accepting that I am transmasc and how I want to be perceived and how I want to represent myself. I've always thought that masculinity is not something that just is only for men. I think masculinity and femininity exist in everyone. It is not something that comes with your sex. It is just, it develops over time. You have multiple facets of this in you at all times. The way that you express that to other people is your subjective way of expressing your own gender identity, which in my case, it took me very long to realize that this urge to present more masculine had something to do with me actually identifying as male. But then on the flip side of that, when I finally came out as transmasculine, it was very hard for me to realize that all of my feminine traits and all of my feminine hobbies, my feminine skills, everything that I identified as feminine but still liked and still pursued, that was not a problem and that would not cancel out my masculinity. A thing that is very present in every discussion about masculinity, especially about toxic masculinity, is that cis men often describe it as people trying to strip them of their masculinity. They're trying to take away their masculinity. That is something that really shows that patriarchy has taught us that masculinity is something that is connected to traditional male values and that it can be taken away. It can be stripped. It can be something that you can, be robbed of in some kind of way, which is so interesting and so scary. And of course you would get scared. Imagine somebody just threatened you with taking away an aspect of your personality, like your smile or your laughter or your happiness. Of course that would make you scared. What is very, very important to notice is that is bullshit. Nobody can rob you or strip you of your masculinity. It is inherently inside of you. It is not something you can be robbed of. And especially not by people trying to free their own minds of values that have hurt them or harmed them. Because that is what toxic masculinity in itself is. It is not something to tell you that masculinity in itself is toxic, because it is not. Masculinity in itself is just a part of human existence. The part that makes it toxic is when it harms you or any other party. So masculinity that is toxic will make a man, for example, think that mental health care is not something that is masculine, and therefore he shouldn't pursue it even when he is doing very bad. This leads to abnormally high suicide rates in men. It is incredibly harmful, and that is just one aspect of this toxic masculinity. So having said that, a thing that I have learned personally is that masculinity can be beautiful, it can be super soft, it can be strong on the other side too, that's not a problem. Strength is not something that comes with gender. Any aspect of your personality can be masculine, but it doesn't have to. And I think what really defines masculinity for me is the ability to think of myself as masculine even when I present soft, even when I present with makeup, when I express my gender in a fabulous queer way, instead of valuing myself by this patriarchic view of masculinity, this traditional values. And I think this entire narrative of like masculinity being something that can be stripped away from you and that feminism is trying to take away from men comes from a place of fear. And I think to dissolve this, we need to look into ourselves as men, as people, and realize that aspects of our personality cannot be taken away from us. And for me, it took a long time to realize that I can express these aspects of my personality in a way that is not harmful to me, and I can be happy and authentic in a way that is still masculine. Of course, as a trans man, I have been questioned on my gender expression, on my gender, much more than a cis guy would ever be. I have questioned my own masculinity much more than a cis guy probably would ever. And so I was forced to look at those sides of me, which is why I said this is what it taught me. Of course, it confronted me with things that I never would have been confronted with if I had grown up as a cis person. But I encourage every single person, every man, every person that is not a man, to look inside them and like try to explore their view of masculinity and try to confront with those parts of you that maybe conform to this value system of the patriarchy. Not to say that all of it is wrong, but to just constantly question and process it is very important to feeling like you can arrive at some point where you are actually comfortable and you're authentic. I'm sure I'm not at the end of my journey with masculinity, but I am at a point where I have found both sides of my gender expression to be something that I can combine into something that is the most authentic me. So that is my short summary on what being a trans man has taught me about masculinity. And so I hope you all have a good day. Leave any thoughts or comments in the comment section. And I will see you guys soon. Bye. Patriarchic. Patriarch. Patrika.